Greetings, Dr. Ringyard. My name is Navon Watson, and this is my recording mini lesson for ELL learners. I am in the strategies and materials for teaching English language learners in this course EDL 531. My participant today will be a colleague of mine because unfortunately I was unable to get the rights signed off to get an actual student, but I am in the school library checking back on me, and we will be simulating a lesson for an eighth grade ELL learner. So give me 1 second. So continuing on, this is my colleague, Mrs. Carthen, and she will be doing the activity as if she is an ELL student. Today's activity will include composing and presenting personal and formal responses to interpreting and publishing literary works and referring to details and features of the text. Our learning objective will be the learning objectives for this lesson will be for the ELO student to identify features such as setting plot ideas, events, vocabulary, as well as text structure, and then they'll be able to develop skills and respond to oral, written, and electronic produced work. So moving forward, we will begin to read Aesop's fable, The Wolf and the Kids, where the ELO student has been given a graphic organizer entitled Reality versus Fantasy, all of which will be included in my attachment. And Ms. Carthen is lifting up so you can see it. And in this graphic organizer, once the text is read, the student will write out two ideas about how the animals are realistic and two ideas about how the animals in the fable are based off fantasy. So I'll move forward and begin with the reading. The Wolf and the Kid. A kid was perched up on top of a house and looking down saw a wolf passing under him. Immediately he began to revel and attack his enemy. Murderer and thief, he cried. What do you here near honest folks' houses? How dare you make an appearance where your vile deeds are known? Curse away, my young friend, said the wolf. It is easy to be brave from a safe distance. Before the student is asked to respond, I'll read it for a second time so that way they can get a better understanding of what the text what was just written in the text. The title is The Wolf and the Kid. This is an Aesop fable. A kid was perched up on top of the house and looking down saw a wolf passing under him. Immediately he began to revel and attack his enemy. Murderer and thief, he cried. What do you here near honest folks' houses? How dare you make an appearance where your vile deeds are known? Curse away, my young friend, said the wolf. It is easy to be brave from a safe distance. So now I'll ask my ELO student if they can list. So, Mrs. Kearney, can you list two facts from the story that make? Oh, so Mrs. Carthen, can you list two ideas about the animal in the story that were realistic?
Okay, so the fact that the animal was sitting on top of a house makes that realistic.
Well, just to clarify, the boy was on top of the house. The animal passed underneath him.
When they said kid, I think they're talking about goat.
Oh, see, that's interesting.
Because I remember all Aesop fables, they always call a kid a goat.
Got you. So you present something that speaks to a contextual understanding of the work. So what Miss Carthen just did was she's familiar with Aesop's fables and she has a history with the work, and she presented to me, the educator, a different cultural understanding of the language that's being used to identify the characters in the story. So this is definitely something to be mindful in working with ELL students and their experience and exposure to work that is published. So Ms. Carthen just changed up our idea about the kid in the story. So a goat was on top of the house, and which is something that's unrealistic. So I'll let you continue.
Oh, I think I was saying realistic.
Oh, that was realistic.
Because the fact of a goat being on top of the house almost makes the goat like a person.
Absolutely.
Because a goat normally wouldn't be in a house, so it makes them more real. Like humans in some way.
Perfect.
Also, the fact of the goat talking.
Okay.
And having a conversation with the wolf.
Okay.
So those are the two things that make them realistic.
And do you have two ideas in the story that make them unrealistic, that make the animals in the story unrealistic?
It just so happens that it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Goats are not normally going to talk, and neither are wolves. Also, the fact of having a house, they wouldn't need to be in a house because most of them are usually in the wild.
Okay. So you just spoke about a few things. You said that the animals spoke, the animals resided in dwellings, as well as the fact that there were dwellings in the story. So far we've been able to identify characters, we've been able to identify the setting. Can you speak a little bit about what's actually going on in the story? What did you take away from it as a listener?
The fact that the animals understood morals, meaning that can even understand concepts of. Okay, I spaced.
So you were mentioning concepts of
the fact that the animals can have a conversation with each other and relate concepts, like the fact of being able to say certain things from a distance because of the fact that you're so afraid to say it to my face.
Yes. Yes. And then lastly, there was some language in here that was a little bit more advanced. Words like revel. Did you understand that word?
I understood it.
But
I don't
in the
know
event that
in the event if I was an ELA student,
yes,
I don't know if I would necessarily understand it.
Yes.
So I would have to have like additional vocabulary.
Got it. So this would definitely be a target word that would be taken out and broken down, just for the syntax purpose, because it is not a tier 1 word. The other thing that came up was the word deeds. Were you familiar with the word deeds?
Yes, I was familiar with the word deeds, but that might be another word that needs to be taken out and broken down.
So the luxury of being in the library when doing an activity like this is that when we come across words that are not necessarily that would not necessarily be considered familiar to the lexicon of the student, we do have access to children's dictionaries, as well as the internet. So in the event that the word translates into something different in the student's native language, we can always translate it and continue on with the work. This activity is simulated for a ELL student who is in the 8th grade. So there's actually a second graphic organizer that will require the student to write out in detail specific components of the actual of the work. So this is the story frame summary. This is also included in a PDF. And basically what it does is that it outlines the title of the story, and it's a sequence of events. So after this, next, then, and it also speaks about the problem and how it is finally solved, and then it concludes with a brief synopsis from the student's perspective of the conclusion or of the resolution of the story in totality. So it is important for 8th graders, especially 8th grade ELL students, to have the writing function in order, as well as the comprehension, the spoken, and the interpretation piece of learning. So I definitely want to strengthen their writing skills by giving them graphic organizers that speak to their level of understanding. So at this time, I will ask our ELL student to, from memory, write the fill in the blanks on the graphic organizer, and we will review it, and we will continue from there beginning tomorrow. So this concludes my ELL mini lesson with 2 graphic organizers and the opportunity to work with students, strengthening their auditory, their listening, as well as their writing skills. So thank you, Dr. Rinyard. My name is Navon Watson, and it's been a pleasure being in your class.